This is Terror House Radio with Matt Forney and Bryden Proctor.
Yeah, welcome to it. Terror House Radio, episode number 41. I'm Matt Forney, your charming and loquacious host, and the founder and editor-in-chief of Terror House Press. Back after a 2-week sabbatical, we are back, baby, or at least I am back. My co-host and producer, Bryden Proctor, who will not be joining me for this episode. He just completed his move to the Amazon rainforest, and he is currently too busy trying to save the trees to unpack all of his stuff, but he will be back very soon. I promise you that much. And on this program, we'll be talking to Charlie Chitty. Charlie is an author and poet, and most importantly, he is the author of Terror House's most recent book, Everything Fun is Illegal or Immoral, which is out now in a dramatic reversal of what we normally do. We're doing the interview with the author after the book has come out due to logistical issues. But the book is out now. Everything Fun is Illegal or Immoral. You can get it on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other retailers, and of course at Terror House Press, terrorhousepress.com. If you are lucky enough to be listening to this on Sunday, the book is on sale for 33% off. This is only at terrorhousepress.com. What is Everything Fun is Illegal or Immoral? It's a poetry collection. Poems about everything from internet porn to Charlie's dog to all kinds of things. You know, if you've read Charlie's stories on Terror House, he's one of our most prolific contributors. You know his sense of humor and his wide dramatic range, the things he's capable of doing, making you laugh, making you horrified. And this book really just encapsulates what he's good at. Everything Fun is Illegal or Immoral by Charlie Chitty. Out now at Terror House Press, terrorhousepress.com, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and elsewhere. Speaking of which, some other news updates. Some people have been wondering what has been going on with The Last Century by Mikhail Drozdovsky, which was supposed to be out last month. And I hinted in this month's newsletter that it would be out this month. We've had to delay it yet again to December. I apologize for this. We have seen unforeseen delays in the publication of this book, but it will be out. We are looking to release in a couple of weeks from now, on Black Friday, The White Swan by Faisal Marzapan, whom most of you probably know through his Twitter alias, The Lebanotarian. His @ is @Cyprus Revival. Very talented writer, very funny guy. He is publishing his first book, a collection of essays and other things. It's absolutely hilarious. And we are looking to have it out on Black Friday. That will be our next book. The White Swan by Faisal Marzapan, a.k.a. The Lebanotarian, coming very, very soon. But right now, we're going to talk to Charlie Chitty, so stay tuned. All right. Charlie, welcome to Terror House Radio. Thanks for coming on the show.
It's good to be here.
Okay. And I imagine a lot of the audience does know who you are, but I always ask this question of first-time interviewees just so, they can define themselves in, their own words. It's a practice of mine going back to my journalist days. Charlie, could you just kind of give the Cliff Notes version of yourself, your work, etc., what you do, that kind of thing, what you're known for?
Sure, 100%. I write loads of really weird short stories, and from 2015 onwards, I've been taking these stories and mostly giving them to Terror House and Expat and Soft Cartel and other American journals because they were the only ones who wanted to run my stuff. Generally, I found the English presses weren't exactly too happy with what I was putting forward, so I found a little bit of a cult niche abroad, overseas. Over from that, I had a lot of other work, and then decided that I was talking to Matt, and Matt said, "Well, I've seen your poems, your ideas from this year, the stuff that's got to you, the things that you've had, the ideas you've had. Let's turn this into a little book." And now I've got a book out. So that's pretty good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think you mentioned that, Matt, to me a while back that you were having the American journals tend to be more receptive to your work than the English journals. Any theories on why that is? Because like it's something that I haven't experienced myself. I have only the most passing familiarity with England, having only been there once. But
I mean, I generally think it's because growing up, I read a lot of U.S. authors. It was Stephen King, Isaac Asimov, all of the kinds of Americanisms stuck with me. Your baseball, your corn dogs, and I always kind of was taken by this. I mean, I remember being involved in a Heinlein and just thinking, oh, wow, this is great. I like this. I vibe with this. So I took on a lot of Americanisms. Like, the notes I get back from certain people when I submit my work was, this is far too American. You need to make your stuff more English. And my whole thing was like, what is English? Do I write about crumpets and the Queen? I don't understand. Because
needs to have more references to tea.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it was weird. I felt like a kind of a stranger in my own homeland because generally they didn't really want to... I don't think they understood the stuff that I was writing. And America did. And it was strange to be successful in a place you've never gone, because I've never actually visited America, although I've always meant to go.
Yeah, probably not the best time to go right now, but that's interesting that you mentioned that. Kind of reminds me of what the. Are you familiar with the poet Roy Campbell?
Yes.
Yes, he was born and raised in South Africa, and he later relocated to England. And he kind of had a criticism of how of the mainstream literary circles in England at the time. Like I believe the phrasing he used was the chocolate box England. People who were very parochial and inward looking, even if they claimed to be like progressive or whatever, they were very kind of just. I hate using the phrase "closed-minded" because it's become such a cliche, but like that was kind of what he addressed, and it seems like what you're talking about is kind of like the modern version of the same thing. People were very kind of inward looking.
He wrestled very much with his own identity because he had Scotch and Irish descent, so I don't think he really knew where he belonged. But his stuff was great, man.
Yeah, he's quite underrated. I mean, a lot of what he wrote, particularly in the 30s, was kind of motivated by cuck rage. But he was interesting. I mean,
that's one way of putting it.
I like him, but I always have to go for the joke. It's like Bryden. He's not here, but that's his philosophy. Never turn down the good joke.
Yeah, 100%.
But anyway, Everything Fun is Illegal or Immoral is your book, and it's out now via Terror House Press. You want to talk a bit about the book?
Sure, yeah, I'd happily do that. So it was a collection of ramblings through this year, and I mean, looking back, it's very strange how it became very personal. I was thinking, oh, great, I'm going to do a poetry book. It's just going to be about Trump. I don't think there's a single poem about the Donald. There's, I think, one about COVID, but generally it was more about my own personal experiences. And going back over it, I was looking at some of the poems and what they meant to me. And there was the one poem that stood out for me at the end because I couldn't figure out what it even meant. And it's very weird when it's your poem and you can't remember what you meant. But it was called the Facebook Condom Review. And I read it and then went, what did that? And then it came back to me and I spent the next 10 minutes laughing. Basically, I saw this amazing thing on Facebook where a man bought, I think it was 100 miniature balloons on Facebook, and it was a review of these 100 miniature balloons, and he was like, I keep accidentally having kids, please help. And yeah, right? It was the most stupidest fucking thing.
It's like the drill tweet, please help me budget this, my family's dying.
Oh yeah, I keep spending money on fucking, what was it, like 9 trillion light bulbs. This is my food bill, it's $10. And it's like, do I need to spend less money on food? That's a classic.
But the poems in Everything Fun is Illegal and Immoral kind of run the gamut about this stuff. There's more sentimental stuff. There's more stuff that's funny. I mean, you open the poem with the internet pornography poem, which is a real cannon shot of a poem.
I mean, yeah, because I wrote that with the idea that pornographic artists are still someone's sister, someone's mother, someone's daughter, and it's like how do you work through that and your own feelings towards women? And I think that's something that all people have struggled with, left and right. So that's why I really wanted to focus on things that were personal to everyone, not specific people of specific politics, because I don't think
it's more of a universalist approach to these issues.
Yeah, and that's how you go around writing poems. You need to. It's not about being black or white or gay or straight. It's about being human, and that's what I wanted to focus on.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my favorite poems, because again, you've got that kind of voice going down, someone's getting horny, and then all of a sudden, she's that's someone's daughter right there. Yeah, just exit out and go do something productive.
Exit scene. I was also taken by the enjambment, the onomatopoeia, because it starts with the twitching in my britches since my adolescent itches over women codenamed bitches. And yeah, like if I should be a rapper, man, but no, I can't be a rapper. I'd rather be a poet, because I mean, have you seen what happens to rappers lately? It's not good. It's not good. They all end up,
It's not the greatest lifestyle, though it doesn't make some good songs,
I guess.
Yeah, but one of the interesting things I thought about I thought about the book is that a lot of the poems rhyme, and rhyming poetry isn't that popular these days. Was that a conscious choice? Why did you choose to write in this particular fashion?
So generally, I've always thought that rhyming poems are fucking corny. The cat sat on the mat and stuff. But I just thought that there's some that aren't, there's some that are. The ones that are, I like to think I had another point to go to, like Black Friday, like other things, or I'm drunk, or stuff like that, which, like the Conservative Fever Dream as well. The ones that did rhyme, I wanted to have more in them than the ones that don't, and the ones that didn't, I wanted to be more sporadic and kind of a bit more like a weird lucid dream, I guess.
Yeah, that's an interesting way to look at it. I mean, like you said, I think modern day rhyming poetry, a lot of it is just kind of corny, and eventually, like, I was getting a lot of those submissions to Terror House until I had to put a disclaimer on the submissions page, like, the only good rhymes are by Christopher Wallace, so if you're going to submit rhyming poetry, you better be really good. I mean, obviously, I think yours is good. I wouldn't have published the book otherwise, but
I mean, that's fair. Thank you.
but yeah, it's what kind of inspirations did you kind of draw on when writing everything fun is illegal or immoral? Because a lot of the poems, again, a lot of them rhyme, but a lot of them seem to have, they're culled from current events, they're culled from things that have happened to you personally. There's some fantasy stuff, like, I forgot the name of the poem, but there's one that's kind of like an RPG style, like you're setting out on the dungeon kind of thing.
Oh yeah, that was Directions. Now,
Yes.
Directions was an interesting one, because that's kind of more of a short story. It's based on. Oh, you know what? I actually need to look this up. There was a cool thing by Neil Gaiman called Instructions, where he just was walking through something someone did and how to walk through a field, and I thought that was really cool. So I took Instructions and I made my poem, which was Directions, which was basically a Dungeons and Dragons kind of thing, but I took all the tropes from that and kind of scattered them through having a drunk bard and all the rest of it, and having a kind of rapey priest who keeps just coming back all the time, and he won't stop appearing, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, the Joe Biden of priests.
The Joe Biden of priests, of course, the guy who keeps coming back. Yeah. I swear to God, Matt, you said this wasn't going to be political, and yet here we are.
Well, I had to make the joke,
Well, Matt, can I say one thing?
Go right ahead.
Joe Biden, 216, Trump, 347, Blink, 182.
That was good.
Thanks, man. That's a poem in itself. I really should have added that to it. But, hey-ho. Well, and there are some which are personal. There's, like, the poem I did about the Birmingham Pen Museum, which is literally about me visiting visiting a pen museum. There's no deeper meaning to it. And then there are some like Rats of Men and Oxen and Males, which was about how all the lechers and creeps are never the bodybuilders. They're always like the men who are the most insecure in themselves who prey on women.
Yeah, the pen museum one was one I liked as well because of it's just I went to this pen museum and it was interesting. Like you kind of stretch hilarity out of what would seem like a pen museum. It doesn't sound that exciting. I mean, it reminded me of years ago. There's a museum in New York City called the Museum of Sex, which I went to one day, and it's like, oh, this is going to be so exciting. It's the Museum of Sex. What subversive things are there going to be here? And it's like, it was interesting, I guess. This was, I think, back in 2013. So they had an exhibition on I think it was A Billion Wicked Thoughts, on the book that was about pornography and modern sexuality. Then there was an exhibition of artworks by this one guy who had like sculpted a giant penis and I believe he actually also had like an art drawing that just said "My life ruined by sex." Then there was the exhibition on bonobos and animal sexuality, and then there was just like a weird bunch of stuff like the female urinal. There was the foot worship throne, and then there was a pornographic drawing of Disney cartoons engaged in unmentionable acts, which mentioned in the description that Disney refused to sue because they didn't want to draw attention to the painting's existence. And then I left the museum and I was like, this was not arousing. It was interesting, but it was not arousing.
So for all of it, it just felt like more of an academic process than just like just something that would appeal to you on a sexual level.
Yeah, it was. You can tell that the people running it, or at least the people who fought up, were like, "This is so subversive. This is awesome. Yeah, we're just gonna put all this sex stuff here." And the overall effect is like, it's about as interesting as going to a college lecture.
I mean, that's incredible. I'm surprised you didn't put a TripAdvisor review just saying not sexy enough, needs more sex.
Yeah, I'm not sure what I would write about that. Like, a more honest review would probably just like, I don't know, close the thing and put it online because it's like, I mean, the most interesting thing there was the female urinal, because that's never gonna. That's just a totally unviable concept. But I'm impressed that someone actually went and built it.
But how would you? Okay, hypothetically, you're now in charge of the Museum of Sex. Okay, it's quite a that's quite a thing. So it's on your shoulders now. No, like, careful. How would you sex up the Museum of Sex?
Well, first off, I
have people having sex inside the Museum of Sex.
I'd start with I start by just having like a tacky 70s porno, just music pumping through, just to make it funnier,
Okay. The more pubic hair, the better.
Yes. And I would probably have gotten rid of that huge bonobo installation because it was both really, really tacky and was not very well put together.
I've never seen a put together bonobo exhibit that I've felt really comfortable with. I've never seen a good one.
Yeah, it's not something that attracts the best artists. But yeah, kind of. Yeah, going back to the book. Yeah, you cover all these different subjects with like just the right amount of touch. Anyone who's read the work you've published at Terror House and Expat and whatnot knows that you've got a wide range of styles that you work in, and you're pretty good at all of them.
I write until I get bored. It's thankful that I tend to complete something before I get bored, because sometimes I will be working on stuff and then I'll just say this doesn't interest me and I'll just stop doing it. I'm never motivated by anything other than how do I feel about this, and then I write to find out how I feel about this. Because like when I was younger, I took an AQ, an autism quotient, and I came up quite high on the spectrum, and I was thinking, how can I be a storyteller and also someone who doesn't understand other people? And then I kind of figured out the reason I'm writing stories is because I need to understand how other people work, how their minds work. I need to figure out what's going on in their head. And you can't do that in the real world, because if you go up to someone and ask this, what the fuck is wrong with you? You'll just get hit. So if you do that by yourself in a room with a pen and some paper, you'll have a much better time. Generally, it was, it's therapy for me. It solved things I didn't even know needed solving. It definitely helped me get over some of my own personal demons and, some of the bad things that happened within my life.
That's a more polite metaphor than I would have come up with. I used to liken writing to masturbation.
Yeah, it's just a more productive wank, basically. And it's less messy as well.
You get it out there, and then you can just focus on your life. I remember a friend of mine who developed WordPress plugins for that, and he said, like, if blogging is masturbation, I guess that makes me a part-time pornographer.
I mean, that is interesting, given the fact that there are at least 6 poems about jerking off or masturbation in the book. I don't think it's a coincidence that that is generally how I would see creative stuff, because it's, well, how do people talk to someone who says they're an aspiring novelist or a writer? They say, "Oh, I've got a book inside me. Oh, I feel something inside me, and I feel I won't be a good person if I let it out, or I'll be sick unless I let it out." People would talk the same if they needed to fucking jerk off. It's the same thing. It's the same thing, 100%. Like, people need to say they need to get it out, and that is art. That's 100% art.
I've got a book inside of me. It's located just above my thighs and below my navel.
Please stop flirting. FBI, open up. Oh, this is taking a strange turn.
Yeah. To kind of go back to a more general question, since you mentioned at the beginning of the show, like you were talking about the your writing influences. What are your main writing influences? Who kind of inspired you to develop the voice that you have now?
That's a really good question. When I look at my shelf, it's kind of the Terry Pratchett's, the Neil Gaimans, the Stephen Kings, the kind of people who are just like, why are you taking life so seriously? You're not going to get out alive. Stop doing ridiculous things, because you've got plenty of people who are very smart, they're good at their jobs, and they just, they're going to have a heart attack by the time they're 40, and it's like, this is ridiculous. Look at your life. Look at all the ridiculousness of it. The kind of Monty Python-esque kind of stuff that I think Britain's much forgotten how silly it all is, why we're having this strange pomposity, why we're taking ourselves so seriously. You can see it in UK politics as well, because no one has a sense of humor anymore. No one's able to make fun of each other or razz each other. And I think it's the same in American politics, because when people talk about Trump, people would say, "Oh yeah, he's bad. He's really evil." The fact of the matter is, I think the only problem is he can't take a joke. Yeah. Like, that's it, right? And that's the problem with any leader. If you think you're above being made fun of, then really.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I'm coming at it from the perspective of an outsider, but yeah, it seems like the UK has become rather uptight in recent years, and America as well. I mean, there's the whole, you can't joke about this or that, the whole cancel culture type thing, and as we were talking about before the show, I kind of just instinctively hate all that stuff, and I like yanking people's chains. If you tell me I can't make a joke about something, that just makes me want to joke about it even more. Before we came on, we both talked about how that's not very conducive to a conversation either way. It doesn't matter where you're coming from. And we were talking about how we've both become, I'd say, a lot more moderate in that we just want people to be able to talk. I mean, what was the thing you posted a while ago? You're just some guy who wants to grill, man. You're just some guy who wants to grill. What are you doing? I just want to grill. Or in my particular case, I just want to eat this tuna pizza and drink this beer.
And anyone who's coming for my tuna pizza and beer, I'm going to have a problem with that. That's not even a political point. That's just me liking a tuna pizza and beer.
Yeah. There you go. It's I don't like the fact that I have to kind of constantly think about this stuff. And I used to be a pretty apolitical person. In many ways, I still am. But again, like I said, 80% of my of my public persona, I think, is just focused on trying to annoy people who really desperately need to be annoyed.
Yeah, I mean, man is a political animal, and when you talk about Terror House Press, it still will have political posts, and the reason is because people engage with those. It gets the likes, it gets the clicks, it gets the retweets, it gets the engagement. People like being mad. It seems people like doing this kind of stuff, but there is a point where you step back and you're like, as long as you can step back, I think it's mostly fine. But there are people online who just seem to. They can't deactivate, they can't unengage, they don't seem to have a life outside of being some sort of, online hero or tyrant. It's all just like some sort of weird thing they're so engaged in. But for me, it's like a video game. You can just turn it off. Yeah. It doesn't matter. It's not an if it is an extension of you, it is that in the most loose sense. I mean, come on. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I go for my daily life, not even thinking about most of the stuff most of the time. Like my number one priority, like today, is just like ordering dinner, and thinking about, oh man, I have to walk, I have to get work done. Oh boy, I eventually am going to have to walk the 2 kilometers to go buy more vape juice. Yeah. And in case this conversation hasn't already revealed it, I'm a very lazy individual.
No, that's fine. I mean, I think most people are. And the people who, there are many people who say they're incredibly highly motivated and highly enthusiastic, gotta go people, but I don't know. I always feel that they'd be much happier if they just slowed down, watched a bit of TV, had a beer, calmed down,
I'm highly motivated. I just don't want to have to walk up 2 steep hills for a kilometer just to buy vape juice, that's... Yeah,
no one does.
Yeah,
no one does.
Yeah, I'm not going to dox myself, but I live in Sarajevo right now, and Sarajevo is a very, very hilly city aside from the downtown area, and I'm in a nice, quiet residential neighborhood that is at the top of a couple of hills. So anytime I want to do something aside from just go to the supermarket, I have to walk up and down those hills, which is not fun. Particularly now, it's something it's about freezing outside. It gets cold here fast.
Oh yeah, completely. Well, yeah. When you're where you are, I can imagine. But have you ever considered are you going to move around anymore? Do you think about coming back to America? Because that would be interesting. That would be very interesting.
Well, I do have to go back to the U.S. between now and the end of January to renew my driver's license. But I look at all these restrictions in place due to COVID, and I'm wondering if that lifestyle isn't going to come to a screeching halt. Right now, as an American citizen, if we just limit it to Europe, there's only, I think, about a handful of countries I'm allowed to enter. That would be Bosnia, Serbia, North Macedonia, Montenegro, I think, Croatia, Albania, Kosovo, Ukraine, the UK, and Ireland. Which, pretty much strikes off a ton of places I would like to go. As I was mentioning before I've talked about this publicly. My whole plan was a few months ago. I was going to move to Argentina and get set up there because I just kind of had it with the time zone differences, and I wanted to do
this full time.
South America. But I was thinking, all right, I may not be in Europe for a long time to come, so I'm going to go visit all these countries that I wanted to visit and see the things I want to see, but then see my friends in Europe before I go. And then, I got to Greece, and then I got to Albania, and then lockdown happened, and I was in Albania for 4 months, about 2.5 of which were in an apartment that didn't have running water much of the day. So, it was, It hasn't been a pleasant year for me, but then again, I could be a lot worse off. So I try to look on the positive side.
I mean, the transport links in a lot of those places, I've heard things. I mean, wasn't there something out of Bus I heard where you got very ill?
That was in Armenia, yeah. That was about a year ago. I took a bus from Tbilisi, the capital of Georgia, to Gyumri, a small city in northwestern Armenia. And the guy, it was a brand new Mercedes-Benz, van. But the guy was so cheap he wouldn't turn the heat on. So by the time we got to Gyumri, my teeth were chattering, I was, I had the scarf and the hat on, I was, just completely frozen cold. And then, and then a couple of days later, I was full on sick. And it didn't help that the place where I was staying, there was a province-wide power outage, and all my heaters were electric. So I think there was a period of like about 36 hours where I just sat, hovered under the blankets, thinking that freezing to death was a very real possibility.
I thought this was the end. This is the end. And if that was the end, we'd have never had this 14th book out.
Yeah.
Third bestseller, number one British poetry.
Yes.
Yeah, boy.
Yes. We should remind everyone of that. Everything as of this recording, everything fun is illegal and moral is number one in British poetry on Amazon US. It was actually
checking on the hour. It's still there. That's great.
It was briefly number one on European poetry as well, which I assume is a broader category. But
there must be some French fucker who's just published something like their life journals, and I need to go find this Frenchman and kill them.
Well, the problem is, I think the number two was Baudelaire, so you may have to do a ritual before you can kill him.
I mean, that's fair. But that was pretty cool. Am I your first British person? Because a lot of your people are stateside or otherwise somewhere else in Europe.
First British author, yes. All of our previous authors have been American, with the exception of Xenon and Fishlu, who are Chinese. Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've been looking at their stuff. Really good stuff. Like, for the amount of stuff people have, this is my bugbear. People have had a go at Terror House for being, exclusive, when it's been the most inclusive magazine I've found. Literally, you never know what will come up next. And every single upload, I'm just like, this is something entirely new.
Yeah, I mean, my guiding philosophy with it is just kind of like, I publish the kind of stuff I would want to read. Like I also kind of have to, this has actually kind of broadened my experience with literature. Because before starting Terror House, I had no interest in poetry at all. Like I didn't pay attention to it. And now, I've been studying and reviewing enough poetry and publishing enough that I'm going to be writing my own poetry collection, which will be out. I don't know when, but it will be out. It'll be out at some point when it's done. In the words of John Carmack.
Would you say this look at poetry and literature is what might have moved you a bit more from, I'd say, the person that people know you as the alt-right figurehead of the 2010s, to a much more agreeable kind of Matt Forney who has a lot to think about, who has this, who considers people? Do you think you've changed because of your look at poetry? Tell me about you, because I came on this podcast to obviously discuss me and show my book, but I wanted to know more about you.
Well, I think I was moving in this direction anyway, but I think Terror House and interacting with all these great people have just kind of accelerated a direction I was going in. It was the catalyst. It poured more fuel in the tank. But I've kind of hashed this over because I won't bore people with the extremely irrelevant. Well, I guess it's vaguely relevant, but
it's not particularly relevant to be fair. But
you don't need to know the specific details of weirdos that I've encountered in fringe politics, insofar that they will end up in my writing at some point, and you will get to laugh at them all over again.
But here's my thing. I think you could just write some amazing fiction, just change their names, and you could have some absolutely incredible books. And I mean, we really want to go back to that 2005 era internet where everyone could live and let live, as far as I'm concerned, because it was good. Everything was feel good. Now everything's polarized, and everyone's out to get each other.
2005 internet was the absolute best. It's 2005 internet. No smartphones, no social media. It revolved around forums. My pastime then was reading and interacting on the Nation States forum, which was full of people who had sharp political disagreements, but all got along. And had very strange arguments, such as the proper name for the U.S. But hey, it was all good. People were generally more literate and chill back then. And then I really think social media, I really think Twitter in particular, just kind of accelerated all that.
Yeah, I generally agree. And Instagram and everything else. I think people suddenly realized the internet was a big deal, and then suddenly everyone was watching their language. And then kind of, I guess, virtue signaling was born. Because before that, you could say absolutely anything you want, and people would go, oh, that's not actually that person. He's saying that to try and get attention, because it was a lawless wasteland. And now people would go, oh, that's him. Immediately, that's him. He said the wrong thing. He said that person, he's got a thing with his tie. His tie was off, and he doesn't cancel him immediately, ban him from the internet. Scrub him from everything. And that's what I'm kind of worried. That's the direction we're going in. And it's strange that we've got all these unnecessary rules and shit. Like Instagram, for example, man. Instagram's terrible. You go to Instagram, you get 100 plus followers, and then the next day they all just go. They follow to unfollow. It's the worst thing ever.
Yeah, I mean, I don't use Instagram that much. I mean, I used to have a personal Instagram account because it was one of the few places I wasn't banned, and then I deleted it because I wasn't that interested in it. But yeah, that sounds rough. So
did I. Like I thought it would be cool, but then I realized the wave had kind of gone, and generally the people who had succeeded had already succeeded, and the rest of it, everyone else was just kind of scrabbling. And it was just kind of sad, to be honest, man, because that's not, again, going back to 2005 internet, you could say anything you want. And it didn't matter, like, the likes or the feedback or anything else. This was just a forum of ideas. It was a symposium. It was good. People had fun. No one got upset. And it's you know, I was very young, but I still remember it. And it's just, nothing compares.
Yeah. I mean, I mainly used Instagram when I was on it just to kind of post, like, pictures of stuff I saw in Europe. Like, oh, here's this cool statue. Oh, here's this cool building. Oh, here's this video of me riding on a train in Ukraine and they're all trying to start a forest fire, which is something that happens there. But then I got in trouble for stuff like that. You know, I'd have people, harassing me over something I wrote, like, years ago, and they're getting outraged like it happened yesterday. And it's like, you could just click off of it, or you could have just looked at the date and saw that I wrote that in like 2013 or so. And it's like,
and your views may have changed. That's not the same person. And arguably that probably wasn't the person who wrote it, because you were doing, you might be writing as a character, or just putting it out there just to try and be inflammatory, right?
Yes. So, to spark a conversation, as the kids would say,
I'm not a kid. I don't say that. I'm 28. Too old, man.
Yeah. Yes. I'm trying to open a dialogue here.
I mean, that's probably closer to my era.
Yeah, but yeah, it's that old style of thing just kind of lost its luster a long time ago. Because it's there's only, I mean, fucking with people is fun. Yanking people's change is fun, but like there's a certain period, there's a certain point where it just kind of loses its luster.
Yeah, when you eat with the devil, you're always the last course. When you yank the chain, you're just going to have to yank harder each time, and eventually you're not going to be able to yank as hard as it. You're going to run out of steam, because everyone will be like, what's your next escapade? And you can see it with like Monday rappers or people who try and be, inflammatory on the internet. Your Milo Yiannopoulos, your 6ix9ine, your people who literally their entire character is people who just want to incite craziness and chaos, because eventually they hit peak chaos and they can't go any further.
Yeah, it's funny you brought Milo up. I remember actually going to see one of his talks in Budapest a couple of years back, and it was deeply depressing in like an existential sense, because it was the exact same thing he had been doing like 3 years before. The same tired jokes. It's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, get some new material. It's like do comedians, like professional comedians, just do the exact same bits over and over again their entire career? I mean, no, they don't. Yeah.
But arguably, he is a comedian, but he thinks he's not a comedian. He thinks he's some sort of, a person who kicks the gates open, some sort of deep demonic kind of character who's just in it for chuckles. Who'll say what he wants to get what he wants. And you had a falling out with him, and it's interesting because I have not heard anything from him from the last, 3 years? I hear he's now broke. He wrote a book about being broke. What the hell's going on with him, man?
Well, I mean, I was never close friends with him, and so, like, falling out might be a bit dramatic.
I didn't say close friends. I said with disagreements.
Disagreements. I soured on him, because, like...
Yeah. That's closer to
Yeah. And the main reason I soured on him is, again, just because he's boring now, and, like I said, last I heard he's doing like a show for censored TV, which is where E-celebs go to die, and when nobody ever talks about him. There's also him turning state's evidence to the federal government. So yeah, that's another bad thing.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where you just kind of think it's not the fact that you're offensive; it's the fact that I'm no longer engaged. You can't be. It's not the fact that I'm offended. You're just not offensive, and you're not offensive enough. You're not saying anything new. You're not interesting me. You're not engaging me, and that's the thing. And then another figure comes along who's polarizing, and then sweeps the rug out from under him. I don't know who this new person would be, but I guess there's a vacancy. I
mean, I'm guessing it was Nick Fuentes for a while, but a lot of people who listen to this show also like Fuentes, and it's like Fuentes is okay, but to be perfectly honest, his time has passed as well.
That's the suit and sunglasses guy on Twitter, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. He gets some good one-liners in that tend to trend and tend to do the numbers, but I think people know he's doing it for effect. He says some pretty zany stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, his time has passed as well. So there'll be someone else coming up behind him.
But it makes you think when you see a cycle of these people. Why even get involved? Why engage with that if you're just going to be another number? If you're just going to be another rank and file? Well, surely there's another way to live your life, and that's why I stopped writing things to just offend people and started writing more about what stuff interested me. Sometimes it was the same as offending people. Sometimes it wasn't, and it all depended on how I felt, I guess.
I tell people that they should absolutely not get involved with this stuff because, first off, you're potentially torpedoing a real future that you have to get involved in fringe stuff. Like, don't do that. Especially don't do it under your real name. And number two, it's like I think it was Mr. Medicare who said this, and it was actually pretty wise. Like, the max life cycle of an e-celebrity is 5 years at most. You've got 5 years to that's your time in the sun. And once your 5 years is up, you may still have a career of some kind, but you're not going to be the hot person that you were. Now, there are some people who've coped with that pretty well. James Rolfe, the angry video game nerd guy.
Oh yeah. He's carried on, but I'd say that's
Yeah, he's not nearly as popular. He's not nearly as popular as he used to be, but he still puts out good content. I think it's he's pretty consistent. He's got a good work ethic. If you liked him 10 years ago, you'll like him now. And then you get other characters who will reach the end of their e-celeb lifespan, and then they'll just self-destruct.
But it is interesting you mentioned that because people always say it's the alt-right figures, these Republicans, these people who are neocons, they have all the money. And I'm just here thinking, all the money? They don't even get to advertise most of the time. They are mostly witch hunted and they don't know where to go. For better or for worse. It's just like...
all the money.
They always go, all the money they make. No, these are usually just people who are... I mean, they dress quite well. They're all in suits, but there's no money there.
We're not even getting to the whole tax situation. Trust me, there's no money after taxes.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, it's I mean that stuff is entertaining for a while, but like you said, Charlie, it's more fulfilling to kind of just move on to what interests you and what interests you. I was trying to insert something loftier there without sounding like a cliche spouting yachts, but it didn't really work.
No, I know where you're coming from, and it's one of those things where you just need to be very careful about what you do, especially in this era, because you can go on a soapbox and say, everyone's getting cancelled, but at the same time, remain a little bit smart, know what you're saying, because there are some people who entirely cover themselves in gunpowder and just light a fuse themselves, and then you just think, well, you did that to yourself. I'm not going to go and be your martyr,
Yeah, I mean, like everyone knows what's going on these days. You know, everyone knows about cancel culture. I mean, there's really, I got yelled at a while back because I was criticizing one of the Groypers who did this to himself, basically. And it's like, yeah, he shouldn't be. You know, he doesn't deserve to have all these people coming after him. But at the same time, did he really have to say that, given the position he was in? Like, if you're in college or whatever, and you're mouthing off on Twitter, like, is that really, what do you value more? Do you value internet clout, or do you value your college education? Do you value your family more, or do you value being famous?
100%.
I mean, if you're in these kinds of vulnerable situations, like, yeah, you should probably take, yeah, it sucks that this is the reality now, but you should probably, think about how this will affect your family, how this will affect your career, how this will affect your friends,
And yeah, more or less understand that these are people who will take pleasure in tearing your life apart. They're not doing it because they don't like you or they hate you. That stuff is to the curbside. They're only doing this because they want attention on the internet, and the best way to get that is tearing someone that they deem public enemy number one apart.
Yes.
And that to me is fascinating. The fact that we have a wonderful platform where we could showcase, all sorts of wonderful things. The birth of a new day, new people being brought into this miraculous world. And instead we take all of our energies and times trying to ruin people's livelihoods based on stuff they've said years ago. It's very strange. And I want to imagine in my head these people who just scroll through Twitter. They'll go through 10 years of someone's tweets and just find one tweet to incriminate them and then think, that's it. Now I'm rallying the charge. And I'm not the bad person here. I'm not the villain of the piece. I'm a hero, and I'm slaying the bad guy here. It's so weird to me.
I mean, you'll probably disagree with me on this, but like, I did say social media is a big part of it. I think some of it is just mass entertainment. Like, all these people are always quoting, for some reason, Harry Potter. And, you probably dispute that, but like, I think that's just plain weird. I mean, my perspective on Harry Potter is like, I read the books when I was a kid and they were entertaining books. Well, I read up to book number 5, and that's when I just kind of gave up because it got too dramatic.
Oh, Matt. Just try number 6, man. 6 is good. 6 changes a lot. It changes most of the character dynamics and stuff, and you get to finally understand Snape, man. Try 6. Trust me. Just reread them. They're pretty good. Although I understand that you might think it's a basic good versus evil plot, but there is nuance. Honestly, just give it a try.
Well, my perspective on it as a kid was like, like I liked the first one. I really liked the second one. That's my favorite one.
That's pretty good.
Third one.
Well, that's
the third one.
Second one. It's fascinating because second one is based on the King George thing, because you know how he slays the dragon.
Yeah. Yes.
So Harry Potter goes down, literally slays the dragon, the basilisk, and rescues the virgin, who is Ginny. Ginny, literally, that's the name, right?
Yeah,
crazy.
I mean, I hadn't thought about it in that context, but like, yeah, I liked it because of like, it added, it was just the right amount of, entertainment and like depth, etc. The third book was pretty good too. Fourth one was okay. That was when it started to kind of go downhill for me because it was just kind of like all this. It was clear at that point that Rowling was writing more for adults than children. And then I just...
it was kind of weird. Like, there's a tournament, and you, man, you're now in the tournament despite the fact you're the wrong age. It was kind of weird. It was less believable. But I don't know. And children seem to question this stuff more than adults. Adults would go, well, yeah, okay, I guess he's in the Triwizard Cup now. Children would go, why? I don't understand. Children are much better at consuming books than adults.
Yeah, they're much better at picking out logical fallacies.
That is strange. It's really weird. I don't know why. But there you go.
And then like number 5 was where I just kind of gave up. And also I felt like I was getting too old for it because I think that came out when I was like, I don't know, 12 or 13 or so. I mean, and, I guess I was still in that, that mental phase where it's like, yeah, I have to give up all this kid stuff in order to be an adult, which is itself kind of a childish mentality.
When I was a child, I played with childish things. When I was an adult, I put away childish things, or whatever the blooming quote is. No, I remember when I was about that age, I had the hardback book. Maybe this is because I'm slightly younger than you, but I have very fond memories of Harry Potter and everyone just carrying around these massive, thick tomes of Harry Potter. And there's nothing that's really surpassed it in terms of that in England because children won't challenge themselves anymore. Teenagers won't either. In fact, Diary of a Wimpy Kid, the book for children, is now more popular with 13 to 17-year-olds because apparently they won't read anything challenging. They'll just read books for kids.
That's
designed for kids.
That's an interesting thing, way to look at it. It's like obviously the cultural impact in England was different than in the U.S. I just remember the fact I really liked the Harry Potter books. Like they were they were a phenomenon in the U.S. as well, and like everyone was I remember when we got the fourth one, like my mom only would buy one copy of it, so like me and my sisters had to share it, etc. And waiting impatiently and trying to make sure that my sister didn't spoil it for me, being the jerk that she could be, but as I got old, as a kid, I thought the whole adults reading it was kind of weird.
Yeah, that was kind of strange, but that is what it is. And the strange thing was, at this time, I would have been reading R.L. Stine books. I would have been reading Stephen King books. There was an R.L. Stine for adults book I read accidentally, which was called like An Hour to Midnight or something like that, where someone gets vivisected and put in a dumpster, which I remember reading when I was about 9, which was horrifying, but there you go. And I was enthralled by this American life of these proms, of all of these other things. It was strange to me. That was fantasy to me. But in America, people were like, oh, a magical castle. Oh, up somewhere in Edinburgh, in the countryside. That was magical to Americans. So when you talk about, fantasy, it's generally about what you haven't experienced, but it doesn't mean it's not, real. You can't go and visit these places. And I think that's crazy, man.
Yeah, I mean, the attraction of Harry Potter in the U.S. was kind of like a lot of Americans like that old kind of English style, the castles and all that stuff, that romantic imagery. But yeah, I also read the Goosebumps books. I read Animorphs, all that kind of stuff. It was kind of a renaissance in young adult fiction, as it were. I mean, maybe there's stuff. Then again, like you said, with the Diary of a Wimpy Kid, maybe not. I don't know. I don't really pay attention to that anymore. But yeah.
I mean, I only pay attention based on charts and stuff, just to try and figure out what's going on in YA, just what's going on in adult chart, what's going on in non-fiction, just to try and get ahead of the literary scene. But it's strange. Like today, I realized that June is number 17th in the charts, and that most of the books in the charts, they're ones that haven't even been released this year. So when anyone complains like, oh, well, I don't think I can write because there's too much competition, I can tell you for a fact there is no competition. These shelves are practically begging for new people.
You said Dune was at 17?
Yeah, I literally went to like W.H. Smith and it was like 17th on the chart, June.
Well, I guess it makes sense. There's a movie coming out, but like, yeah, I mean that's a very good point. There is no competition, guys. So like, if you want to write, I mean, right now is the best time, that there is.
It's 100% the best time. No one's writing. Everyone's watching Netflix. And, everyone's watching TV and assuming that that new TV is being written. I can assure you there's gaps. I thought I could never write anything particularly good. And I've already sold 3 stories this year for 50 quid. And that's pretty good. That's 150 quid I wouldn't have had otherwise. And these were stories that I previously had in my anthology or had written and then backed up previously. So when I look back at my old stories, man, like 14, 15, I'm just like, man, that guy who wrote those stories was fucking insecure. But now I read the stories I write now, and I'm like, I can tell who that Charlie is and who that Charlie is, and I know how that got there from here. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you can track your evolution. I mean, I've had discussions with this with my friend Calvin. Calvin Westra. He's been a friend of mine for years, and I've followed and published some of his work at Terror House and stuff, and I've watched as his stories have become more complex and more entertaining.
Yeah, Calvin Westra is someone I really, really look up to, and I've reached out to many times for opinions on stuff. And he's featured some of my work on Self Cartel, and I think he said he'd look at some of my new work for Back Patio, which is his new imprint. And I mean, have you seen the stuff he makes? Like, look at those, like the way he wraps the book and ships them out. Like he really cares about the art form more than he does about making money.
I think you're confusing.
You look at him and you think that's a literary figure.
I think you're confusing Calvin with Kevin Bryce, I think is his name. Because
I'm confusing Calvin with Kevin?
Yeah, because Calvin's not involved with Back Patio, I don't think. Or if he is, he hasn't told me about it.
Calvin Bryce? Who?
Not Bryce or Gonzalez. I'm sorry.
Wait, those are two different people? I thought they were the same people. I thought they were the same person for about 3 years. I've been sending him messages thinking he was him.
Oh, man. But yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, yeah, I follow both of them, and I know both of them, and I thought that person was the same person. Oh, my God. This evening has been amazing. Are you telling me they're two separate people with two, like...
Yeah. I think Calvin took over Soft Cartel about a couple of years back, and Calvin was involved with Terror House.
Oh, yeah, because he's... he's not an editor, is he?
He left a while. He left about a year ago to kind of focus on his own writing. But yeah, we've been close friends for a better part of a decade now. So,
and you're telling me he's not the same person as Kevin? That's so weird.
Yeah, I've never met Kevin.
It's interesting that I knew both of them. Strange, but it was interesting. I even knew Terror House Press because Terror House. Sorry, something just fell on the floor. It's interesting I even knew Terror House Press because it came across because I lived in a small little rural English countryside town in the Cotswolds called Cheltenham, and they had one writing magazine that would come out every month at the post office, and then I'd flick through and I found, and I'd submit to a lot of places, but then I came across Terror House and your adverts in that writing magazine, and then it took off from there. It's kind of interesting when you think of all of that.
Adverts in a writing magazine? I don't remember that.
Yeah, you were in a English writing magazine that was available at my post office. I still probably have the old copy back. I'm in Birmingham now, but in my hometown, I probably still have the copy. I've got about 17 copies of this writing magazine. I used to buy it all the time until I realized that all the competitions were available online, so there's no point in really buying the magazine.
I must have gone through Duolingo or something, because I don't remember doing that at all. I'm glad it ended up in there, but or maybe this is something I totally forgot about.
You may have done it like while drunk and blacked out, and then just later that.
It's just weird because like a lot of the stuff I've done online, like I don't even remember a lot of it. Like there are people who will like cite something I wrote or did years ago, and it's like, are you sure? I don't even remember that. You know, I have a terrible memory for what I do myself. I can remember other people's writing better than I can remember my own. Like I'll publish this poetry collection, and then like 10 years after it's published, like someone will ask me for an autograph. They're like, "Are you sure I wrote that?" Like I don't remember that.
But that's kind of the idea, I guess, in a way. That the most happiest memories you'll have are when you just are reminded of it, or when someone comes across it just out of nowhere. Because it was literally a journalism website. Who came across me. I can't remember what their name was. They inboxed me saying, "Hey, we really liked your piece you did on 365 Days, the movie. We thought it was quite funny. Would you write a piece for us?" And then I wrote a piece for them. So that was quite fascinating. Yeah, and then I found that a few of my things were being tagged and put on another website for journalists. And I was just thinking, journalism? I've never done journalism in my life, but there I was.
Yeah, the Penn Museum, that was journalism. In a sense.
I mean, I guess. I was just quite amazed that the guy who invented the biro was called Laszlo Biro, because that just seems like one of those comedic things that someone would just make up as some sort of weird, freakish pun. But no, that's true.
Yeah, interesting stuff. But it's like, where were we going with this? I completely forgot.
I genuinely can't remember. We were talking about... Wait, I've got my notes here. Stories I wrote in 2016, technology. I was going to talk about Bitly links and Instagram being horrible, Corona, lockdown, politics, Silicon Valley. We were going to talk about a Facebook condom review. Yeah, that's fine. Miniature balloons. Number one. I'm number one. Stuff with Expat Soft Cartel. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Soft Cartel mailed me a shirt. Did I ever mention that? I gave them a poem and they mailed me a shirt.
Oh, no, you didn't mention that at all.
It's amazing. It was a really nice shirt. It was like embroidered and everything. And I was like, this is incredible. I can write something and then someone halfway around the world will send me clothes. If that's not the tightest shit ever, then I don't log off, because that's amazing. That's the best thing ever. And from then I was like, if I can just write something and get a 6-pack of beer, or write something and get like groceries, or write something and get someone giving me a pen, or I wrote a moon story about the moon falling apart, being made of cheese, and some guy gave me a moon badge, and I was like, that's pretty cool. And that's what writing is to me. It's not about money. It's about the fact that you can just get through life writing.
Oh Christ! Now I'm gonna have to up my game. Like I'm gonna have to start sending all the Terror House contributors, like, I don't know, communist Yugoslavia flags or something.
I mean, that would make sense in some sort of weird, twisted way. In fairness, I think it's actually because I bought the shirt and then Kevin refunded me or something. But I've still got the shirt to this day. It's a great shirt. Even though like the thing's out of print and that press no longer exists, I've still got the memory of it through the shirt, and it's still a part of something that happened. And that for me is what writing's about. It's not about like awards or how much you get from it or anything like that. It's all about the people you meet. It's all about everything else.
It's all about the little things.
Yeah, like we've met some strange characters through this. Like I was on a podcast with Eris like 3 weeks ago. I was invited with my friend Dawson, and I said, why am I on a podcast now? And she said, I just literally wanted you to meet this other person. She started a podcast for no other reason but me to meet another person. I'm like, that's amazing.
I joked about like her doing a podcast, and then she just set one up, and then like we just got on and like rambled on about like threesomes and hitchhiking for like 45 minutes.
And that's the life, to be honest. It's all about people connecting with each other. That's what writing's always been about for me, because I wasn't able to do that normally. I wasn't able to look people in the eye and tell them the nasty things I thought, or the things I thought weren't appropriate to talk about in normal conversations. So I wrote them all down, and it turns out people wanted to talk to me anyway.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I'll throw the links in the description for the people listening to this. Eris is in a bit of trouble right now, and I'll put the links in if anyone wants to send her some snail mail, because I think she could use it.
100%. Like she was always supportive of my stuff. I wrote a story about Wonder Bars, which was about like an MLM, a multi-level marketing company, taking over the world. Having their food in all the supermarkets. There were like gangs based on the flavors of each of the Wonder Bars, and then it just ended up with everyone having no money and one person having a quadrillion dollars. And she said, "This is my favorite story. I love it." And every other month she'd remind me and say, "This is my favorite story," and would always message me about it. And I was like, I don't even care who cares about my story. That's her story for all I care. Like 100%. Like I just write to entertain.
Yeah, I actually sent her a bunch of Terror House books about a month ago, and she was like doing little capsule reviews. I like the one she did for Under the Nile, where she said something to the effect of like, I like the part where women aren't getting raped, they're just getting murdered, and it's like, thanks for the praise. I'm not sure if there were women getting raped in that book, but like. You may have confused it with the Columbine Pilgrim. But
probably, I imagine. Which one was in the wiki? I can't remember.
He's written for us Columbine Pilgrim, Under the Nile, and Lost Violent Souls, which we published a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. Also, the woman on the front of that cover for the last one, Lost Violent Souls, looks a lot like who's that lady who adopted like 10 African children?
Angelina Jolie.
Oh my God, it looks exactly like her.
I don't think that was the template Matt Lawrence used, but yeah, now that you think about it.
Like, I was staring the other day and I just thought, that's crazy. Like, I'm pretty sure it's probably not a template, probably used a different one. Like, probably like a stock photo one. Like, when I was doing my short story anthology, I just used a photo that was from Creative Commons, and then you hire an artist through Fiverr. It's strange because when I was like 15, I'd just get generic image, Amazon, go, oh, look, I've published a book. And now I'm older. I look at those people and I'm just like, amateurs. They don't know what they're doing.
Yeah. Matt Lawrence is the best. He does all of he's done all of our book covers except for Masculinity Amidst Madness. The cover he did for your book. It's like, I saw that and like my first thought was like, how much acid did you do, man?
I just thought, hell yeah, brother, I can get it. I understand the Cookie Monster from the Cookie Monster poem, the Lobster from Lobster Lobster, which is a poem I did once in a museum, once I did for the Cheltenham Poetry Festival. It's actually one of my favorite poems, and he just somehow knew. And I don't know where the green bra came from, but that's fucking cool as well. And I was just like, yeah, 100%, that's my cover. That's the cover I wanted for my book. But I've never said a word to him, and he somehow knew exactly what I wanted. So, I mean, that's the kind of cover designer you want, who like knows exactly what it should look like.
He's shockingly good at that. I think his idea was like Cookie Monster as Baphomet, which is the horns and the mushroom.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where the bra came from, but it's a nice little detail there.
It is pretty cool. I remember I just looked at that and oh my god, all the feelings running from it. I was like, oh, this is. I was so worried about the cover, and now I look at that and I'm just like, yes. I can't actually imagine a better cover. That's a perfect cover. It's genuinely a perfect cover.
Yeah. Go. I'll put the links in the description. Go check out Matt Lawrence's website. If you need a cover done, he's the absolute best. And go buy his book, Chronicles of Barbarian the Barbarian. That's also out via Terror House.
Yeah, it was the first one that came out, I believe. He's also pretty ripped. He's pretty swole.
Yeah, he spends a lot of time in the gym. Yeah,
that's fair enough. I wish I could do that, but unfortunately they're all closed at the moment, which is a bit of a shame.
Yeah. I mean, since you mentioned that was in your notes, like, what's the? I don't think the situation is good on that front where you are.
Well, no, we're in our second lockdown, which fucking sucks. But it's like the first lockdown was Coke. This one's more like Diet Coke. Some places are allowed to stay open, and it seems almost like flip of a coin depending on where you are. I mean, I can still go to work. Which is really weird. I work in a coffee shop. It's really strange because half the high street is dead, and the other half is a bit more thriving. You can't tell whether you're going to be busy or just go without any custom at all. No custom. It's very strange. The whole cabinet's in shackles. Literally 40 minutes before we even went on air, Dominic Cummings was sacked. He's walked out of Downing Street with a cardboard box.
What?
Yeah, literally, just check the news. It literally happened, I think, 2 minutes before we started just chatting and...
Let me look that up.
And vibing.
I had a more salacious image in my head, like he was walking out wearing a cardboard box.
That would be funny as fuck. But then Twitter started trending with Dominic Cummings, Dominic Goings. Britain's quite good with those kinds of little cute little things, which is pretty funny. But it is weird when you look at Britain because it's kind of a microcosm of America. It always has been. For as much as like America fetishizes Britain, Britain fetishizes America to a much greater extent, I feel. And I feel that since Biden's won over in America, we'll probably have a Democrat. Our version would be, of course, a Labour candidate or a Liberal Democrat in Parliament after Boris Johnson goes.
Yeah.
If I was to wager, because we tend to not really copy America, but our feelings and our gestalt seems to be more or less the same because it's the West,
Yeah, it tends to, all these other countries tend to follow the U.S. I mean, Canada got their own version of Obama and, Justin Trudeau. So.
I don't know, man. He seems to be doing the best he can. People think of him. People treat him a bit like a piñata. I think they're much worse people than Justin Trudeau. But here we go. Here's the fact that I'm a little bit more left. You might be a little bit more right. But look at us. We're coming together. You've published my book. It's pretty good. This is progress as far as I'm concerned.
I just think he's a ridiculous character. I had a friend who claimed, according to high levels in the Canadian government, which I don't believe this guy at all because I am not friends with him anymore, claims that Trudeau is bisexual and he and his wife go to swinger parties or some nonsense. Which, to be perfectly honest, if he was open with that would actually make me like him a lot more.
Okay, I see. I don't know.
I mean, it would certainly be more honest than like the whole stunt of wearing rainbow colored, crescent socks or whatever he does.
Is what it is.
But whatever. I mean, Canada's not a real country anyway, so
is it French? Is it American? What's it doing? Everyone there speaks English, so it's not French or American. I've never seen Canada, so I don't think it exists.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. My dad summed up Canada like this. It's like upstate New York, but the people there are more boring.
Sounds pretty good. Sounds like my dad would always say of Wales, I just love Wales. It's just a shame about the people who live there. That was a classic.
Yeah. But yeah, the whole COVID thing. Yeah, I mean, I think I mentioned to you. Yeah, I mentioned to you off air that Bosnia, or more accurately, the Federation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, because we've got two separate parts here, is under a nighttime curfew. It's not the biggest deal because there was already a law in place that said all businesses had to be closed by 11 o'clock anyway. But I'm just waiting for them to do something more absurd. I don't think they're going to go full bore lockdown just because since Bosnia is not in the EU, they're not going to be getting those sweet pandemic bucks. So any kind of lockdown will wipe the economy out.
I saw your tweet saying the curfew is 11 p.m. till 5 a.m., I think, and you said, "Oh, this is going to drive me insane." What are you doing from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m.? Do you not sleep? Do you go out I don't know.
I don't know.
What is there to do in Bosnia between 11 p.m. and 5 a.m.?
Right now, exactly nothing. But I like the
ability to do that.
I like the ability to just go out for a walk at like midnight, which is something I've done before. You know,
I'd like that. I used to love when I was a kid night drives. I'd just drive with my friend and just for as long as we could, just because we could. You know, that was a big part of growing up in the country. The fact that it was a lot more freeing.
That's the road trip is a great staple of American culture. But yeah, it's it could be worse here, but you know, it could be better. But then again, you know, one of the things that kind of grinds my gears about the continental Europe compared to like one very great thing about Tbilisi living there, like everything's open 24 hours. Probably not now, but like I could walk down to, you know, a block away from my apartment, and I was in a suburban area, and like, and I could just buy some beer at the store. There was actually I used to go on an old live stream fairly often called The Weekly Sweat, which aired at 7 a.m. my time. So like every time I was going on that show, I just like show up and get some beer beforehand. And I was thinking to myself, I'm buying beer at like 5:30 in the morning. The clerk probably thinks I'm a horrible fucking alcoholic. Just Americans walking in at 5:30 and he's buying like a whole bunch of vodka and beer.
Oh no, the expat's done it again.
Yes.
Look at this unhinged character.
Yes.
Or he thought you were the coolest fucking person. Just like a person who does road trips or is like a protagonist in a Jack Kerouac novel. Like, I remember my brother used to read a lot of Jack Kerouac and the kind of American Beat Generation kind of writers. Mm-hmm. Which was, that kind of passed me by. I never really understood a lot of that, but I can kind of understand the appeal in a way.
Yeah, I read On the Road when I was a kid. You know, it's like Jack Kerouac is one of those writers. Like, if you don't read him between like the ages of 15 to like 21, like you really shouldn't bother because it's inspiring if you're young, but it's kind of juvenile if you're not.
Like, he won't capture that feeling. And and like there are adults who will put forward the book. For fuck's sake, what's that horrible book about a kid who's a little snot-nosed fuck, and it's about his sister, and he goes out and he does bullshit. Not something. What's it called?
Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close.
It's the really old book that people say is a classic with
The Catcher in the Rye. The Catcher in the Rye.
Catcher in the Rye. I fucking hate The Catcher in the Rye. That protagonist is a fucking piece of shit. That book is garbage. The author is a piece of rubbish, and it should all just go in the trash. And people just go, "Well, that's a classic. You can't touch this. It's a sacred cow." And I'm just like, no, it's scummy and rubbish, and you're all idiots for enjoying it.
It's overrated. You know, I'm more positive about it than you are, but it's overrated. I mean, I read it in high school. You know, it was sold to me as a great book in the American canon, and I remember reading it, and it's like, this guy skips out on school because he's flunking out and he doesn't want to face his parents, you know. And then he just goes around the city being an asshole and, you know, taking money from his sister and, you know, and crying about youth when he doesn't even have his life together. And then he ends up in a mental institution. And it's like, this is great. I mean, it should probably be in there somewhere, but I don't think this is worth bumping Hemingway off the curriculum for.
It's a bit strange. I think adults look at that book and go, yes, the follies of youth. But when people who are young read it, they just go, this guy, he sucks. He's not as good as, he doesn't do anything. This is literally a boy does nothing, the book. He doesn't do anything. And maybe that's kind of the point, but at the same time, I just think, you've wasted my time. You've wasted all of my time. Because when you're young, you're supposed to be angry, aggressive. You're supposed to change things. I want him to do something cool. This whole book was me just kind of poking him with a stick, just being like, come on, do something. Fucking anything. Even the most grotesque thing imaginable. Just so you stop being boring. Just so you stop being that teenager you will end up becoming eventually. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, it would have been redeemed if he had like stabbed that teacher near the end or something.
Yeah, I mean, I remember reading a synopsis of the book where a guy said, "This book is great. There's a subtle hint at the end that he abused his sister," and I read that and went, "Oh, that actually makes the entire book much more interesting."
A subtle hint? I must have missed that.
Like it's right at the end with a little merry-go-round thing. There's like they say, "Oh, this is obviously that's not actually in the book or even in the subtext," but this guy had invented the subtext, and just to make it more interesting, finding things which aren't even there, because that's how dross the book is.
So it's like the fan theory that like every James Bond is actually like a different James Bond using the same code name, or that the ending of Taxi Driver is just Travis Bickle's dying hallucination.
Pretty much. I mean, I really wanted to I want to write a science fiction. I love writing science fiction because you can do anything you want. There's fewer restraints than anything. Where James Bond was basically the bad guy. Okay, so James Bond is immortal. He's a shape-shifting lizard man who just has all of the same traits. He's an alcoholic who can't stop killing people. He has slept with everyone. He can't stop. And M and the good guys are actually working with the bad guys. That M and all the good guys, MI6, are creating the bad guys just to try and stop James Bond, or just to keep him busy because he's like a horrible, eldritch, godly being who just drinks so much alcohol and has sex with so many women and kills millions of men and depriving them of their families. And it's just awful. He's a horrifying being that can't die. Because that's the only other explanation. It being a code name is much more boring than, no, there is one James Bond. He was born in 1916 and he's still alive in 2020 and he still looks like he's 35 years old.
Yeah, see, he just the reason why there's a different Bond girl in every movie is because he just kills the last one in a ritualistic frenzy to regenerate his health. Yes,
that would actually really work. And it's something I've been toying with for a while, but then I just think, I've got some other things on the back burner. I've got a large back burner. That one's about 12 pans to the back. There's a few other pans in front of it, and I'm just like, I'll work on that one, and that one.
Yes.
I've always got too many ideas and not enough time.
Yeah, it's a common thing. Yeah, but yeah, Catcher in the Rye is overrated, and Hemingway is I think overrated in some sense, but like again, in high school they totally skipped him over for me. I mean, I don't know what the equivalent would be in English literature of writers of that time.
Well, Hemingway was very simple. Very few of his words had 3 or more syllables. He was just focused on telling clear, concise stories. Not necessarily the most elegant. He wasn't very prosaic. He didn't use all kinds of wonderful, superfluous words, but he just told a story. I mean, clearly he wasn't a happy person. He was deeply troubled, and eventually, did he Kirk and Bane himself? I can't remember. He shot himself, didn't he, with a shotgun?
Yeah. After he got electroshock therapy.
Yeah, that's not good for anyone.
Yeah. Sylvia Plath also killed herself after getting electroshock.
And Sylvia Plath's a great novelist. I remember I wasn't really a fan of Sylvia Plath, and then I just thought, poetry's a bit poetry. Who cares about poetry? And then I read a lot of her confessional poetry, and my mother really got me into Sylvia Plath. I think when you're young, you just think, oh, it's not cool to be into poets. It's not cool to be into these characters. And then when you leave school, it's just like, oh, no one's actually going to judge me. I can read Frost. I can read these poems, and no one's going to come up and say, what are you doing, you fucking loser? You can find whatever you want.
You're gay, bro. You're reading poetry, you know.
Dude, you fucking suck dick. And it's just like, I'm reading words, so I suck. I don't even understand that. Like, what? Looking back on it, it's so ridiculous. But when you're in school, it just seems like that's the obvious cause and effect. Oh, I'm interested in human emotion. I'm a homo. It's
Yeah. I mean, I got in my senior year of high school, I got a bit of that because there was for some reason the way my class schedule ended up is that like every other day I had one class period where like I had no class. So like for 40 minutes I would just go to the cafeteria and read a book because I had nothing else to do. So I would grab something out of my mother's library, and I was like, that's how I read Hemingway and Ayn Rand and a bunch of other writers, and I did end up reading, for example, Wuthering Heights at one point, which now that's a horrible overrated book. I mean, maybe if you're a woman, you'll like it, but like
I think it's okay. I don't mind Wuthering Heights. I kind of thought that's an interesting story, at least. Of course, I was still hung up on Catcher in the Rye.
I couldn't follow it. The only thing I could remember about that book after finishing it was like the part on page 26 or whatever where she takes a dig at the U.S.
I mean, there's the whole romance element as well. I thought that was pretty succinct. I thought that was all right.
I thought Jane Eyre was a much better book.
No, that's fair. Yeah, I can understand.
Yeah, and because I read a lot of Hemingway, I read a lot of Ayn Rand. I even got into reading Dostoevsky, which that was kind of a trip.
I mean, you've got the Notes from Underground, Brothers Karamazov. You can't really go wrong. Ayn Rand, however, I think I've actually never read Atlas Shrugged. And I think the 100% reason for this is because the people who recommend Atlas Shrugged to me are people I've been fucking terrified of. These people, it's true though, it's true. These are the kind of pro-capitalists who are just like, taxes shouldn't only be illegal. The government should be. They're mental. They're all mental. I've never met a reasonable person who like. I can understand that it's an interesting treatise, but it's people
who just radiate virginity.
Yeah, pretty much. It's the neocon's wet dream, isn't it?
I mean, I made this dig at Bryden a few episodes back. I joked that anyone who's a libertarian past the age of 17 is a spiritual virgin, but like that pretty much describes objectivists to a T. Like I read, I think Ayn Rand's We the Living is actually a pretty good novel because that was before she's decided to start using her novels to push her political ideas. So you just got this very simple kind of love story set in 1920s Soviet Russia, with this woman who's beautiful and stuff, and she's in love with this deposed count, and she's also being courted by this Soviet bureaucrat who's a good guy despite believing in horrible things. And I think it's done very well. Fountainhead is it's okay. There's some good parts of it, but like that was when she started philosophizing in her fiction. And Atlas Shrugged is just terrible because it just hits you with the constant monologuing, and I don't think anyone, even the hardcore Ayn Rand fans, have ever read that 60-page speech by John Galt at the end of Atlas Shrugged. Just admit it. You've skimmed it. Because it's literally
the whole thing was who is John Galt? John Galt is a main character, and then as soon as they introduce him, you're like, oh, right, now I see why you're having a build-up to him, because this isn't John Galt. This is this is you. It's not the wizard behind the curtain anymore. This is the wizard. This is you just telling me what you think.
Yeah, you went. Yeah. Who is John Galt? Who is John Galt? He's the Unabomber, basically.
Yeah, but at least the Unabomber was interesting, Matt. He was there's a great show on Netflix. I don't know if you've seen it. Manhunt Unabomber.
No, I haven't.
Oh, if you haven't seen it, I recommend it. It doesn't paint him in a positive light, and it showcases. It tells a story from the perspective of the cop who went after him, and he's a deeply troubled figure because the whole thing is he's dealing with bureaucrats, he's dealing with all kinds of things going wrong with his own life, and the thing he never wants to admit is, what if the Unabomber's right? What if technology is the bad? It ends with this kind of thing where the cop's at a traffic light and he's literally in an empty highway and looking at this red light that's telling him not to go and obeying it. And I recommend watching that, man. Do you get Netflix in Bosnia?
I can get it pretty much anywhere. I mean, VPNs can be used to evade region blocking. So
Matt Forney is sponsored by NordVPN. NordVPN. Use code Republican for 20% off your first year with NordVPN. Thank you. No, I don't think they're sponsoring us. They should sponsor us. NordVPN, if you're listening, I assume NordVPN are listening to this because they can get through anything. They've got the internet like wrapped around their finger. So NordVPN, you can sponsor us.
Plus, there are a lot of paranoid people who listen to this show. We beat their primary market.
I'm surprised we're not, to be honest.
Yes. There are a lot of paranoid people buying our books and worrying about the future of humanity and not wanting their online activities being tracked. NordVPN, I think you could really, really make a killing with us. But yeah, I'll look that up on Netflix or wherever.
It's definitely worth watching because it's a good drama within its own right. The acting is just superb. What are we talking about again? We keep going. I'm sorry, man. We keep going off on tangents.
It's more interesting than a structured show.
That's fair.
Yeah, and also everyone. I mean, at least you're not trying to Mike Cannon me. So that's a good thing.
That's never in my repertoire. What does Mike Cannoning mean? Is that where I'm like? Mike, so you admit you looked at the images. You admit you threw a stone at a 2-year-old.
No.
Matt Forney, are you admitting you threw this baby over the window?
No. Mike Cannon, he's a good guy. We had him on the show about a few weeks back. He's a self-described socialist and Marxist, and me and Brian had him on and we were just talking about stuff, but he basically took control of the show and was running it through like all this various outline of stuff he wanted to do, and and he was like, I'm introducing some Bolshevik discipline to the show, and it's like no, he's a good guy. I'm not ripping on him. He's a fun guy.
It's a gentle razzing. It's okay. I mean, I'd say we'd both admit we're social Democrats. Like, give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Give him a fishing rod, he'll eat for the rest of his life. But fishermen get hungry, so maybe give him a few fish just to get him started. Then give him the fishing rod, and then he's kind of on his own. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I got to grill him on the hoaxa question. So that's my number one. That's whenever I meet a Marxist, that's always my number one question.
Well, I'm not a Marxist, but what's the question?
I asked him what he thought of Enver Hoxha, the communist dictator of Albania from 1946 to 1985. Because he was basically the guy who was more Stalinist than Stalin. He broke with the Soviet Union during the Khrushchev era because he thought they were betraying true communism. Then he left the Warsaw Pact. Then he allied himself with Maoist China, and then he broke with them after Mao had his famous summit with Richard Nixon. He was a hardcore believer in state atheism, and he built all those lovely bunkers that dot the Albanian landscape. If you've ever been there. So I just asked because it's a weird bit of Cold War history that I'm interested in.
Yep, that's fair enough. And while you're out there, it's definitely something to think about. I mean, geez, I've never been a fan of communism. I think if you want true communism, you're having death, because that's fair. Death for all. That's entirely fair. But you can't really fix the inequality within life. There's the Pareto distribution, where even if you were to be as fair as possible, there will be inequality arising from that. It happens in the stars in our system. It happens in books. It happens in music. It happens in absolutely everything. It's also called the 70-30 principle, some people call it. I think that's quite interesting, because what you're trying to do is force something that isn't natural but you think it's natural because you think it's good, but you're severely misinformed in what good is.
Well, yeah. I mean, I always bring up Hoxha just because, again, like, he was more Stalinist than Stalin.
But Stalin killed more people.
Oh, well, he had a larger population to draw from, in terms of doctrine, Hoxha was very much he one of his big initiatives was that he declared Albania to be the world's first atheist state, and, which involved, murdering a lot of priests and imams and, and seizing all the property and such. Then there was his obsession with bunkers because he thought that Yugoslavia would invade any day now, which they never did. But the bunkers are lovely. I mean, they're still around. And actually, that one of the funniest things about how the bunker culture developed in Albania is like a lot of like teenagers will use them for shall we say romantic escapades.
That's actually quite beautiful though, in a way.
Yeah, I mean that's their version of like how like American teenagers will do it in the back of a car,
or the back of an abandoned gas station, or behind at a drive-in behind. One of those, what are those boards that Americans have just dotted everywhere, apparently across the landscape?
Sorry, you cut out there. Those what?
They've got like large billboards. They're always driving a Chevy, and then the guy's always wearing a leather jacket, and then reaches an arm around the lady, and then usually the killer comes from like behind the car. It's a whole thing. Yeah. The thing is, I can mention those few things, and then people go, "Oh yeah, that," which is really weird.
Yeah, a classic image of Americana.
Yeah, I've always been interested in that and that kind of stuff. It's interesting that an hour ago we were like, here's a poem, and now we're like, Yugoslavia is invading Albania, and I'm like, what's happening?
Yeah, it's. But yeah, go if you're in Albania, go visit a bunker. It's not hard. You'll literally find 3 of them for every square mile.
Full of teenagers kissing.
Nah, the ones in the rural ones. The ones in the cities, you'll probably just find a homeless person in there.
That's fair enough. Will the homeless person be kissing teenagers?
I'm sure that's happened as well.
Okay, it better be, or I'm not visiting Albania. Sorry, go on.
You know that YouTuber Bald and Bankrupt?
Never heard of him.
He's a British guy who goes to all these former communist countries and like does like tours and stuff. Like he did a video series on Albania where he was trying to seek out the elusive P-type bunker, because they have the 2 types. Like there's the Q-type bunker, which is like a little it's shaped like a dome and it was just for infantry use, and there's a P-type bunker which is a command bunker. And he finally finds the P-type bunker and he's like, "Oh, I'm not going in here. Someone's been using it as a restroom."
I mean, there's over 66 million of us in the UK. I don't just know everyone in the UK.
Well,
I think everyone in Britain just knows each other.
Well, he's got.
If you go to Ireland, it doesn't matter how many people are there. All Irish people know each other. It's just a fact. I've never met a single Irish person who haven't mentioned then another Irish person. They've been like, "Oh, I know him. He's my cousin's brother's stepsister," or something like that. Go on.
Well, I just mentioned it because he's got like millions of subscribers, and he tells himself as PewDiePie's favorite YouTube channel.
That's fair enough. I've always wondered who is the most popular YouTuber's YouTuber, and other things. Who's the most successful writer's writer? Who is, how deep does it go? How many people look at other people as their icon or their leader or their motif or their original source, and they're just like, "Oh, I can never be as good as the great masters," and then they keep thinking that back to the point where like a Stone Age person is just like jamming a rock into a wall and he's like, "Yeah, I'm the best, baby." There's no one else above him, obviously.
Yeah, he was he was the original one. He was the guy who was taking inspiration from the man upstairs, or
Yeah. And that's honest, I guess, because you can't disagree with that because there was no one else doing it. Shout out to Stone Age man jamming a rock against the cave wall. Again, this is why I think art should be taken a bit less seriously, with less pomposity, because we're all kind of making it up. We're all kind of putting our own spin on things. We're all trying to find out what's what, and we do that in different ways. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a good note to end the podcast on, because we've been going for about an hour and a half.
Hell yeah, brother.
Leave them wanting a little more. But obviously, everything fun is illegal or immoral is out now via Terror House Press. If you buy it, if you're lucky enough to be listening to this on Sunday, you can buy it for 33% off at terrorhousepress.com. You can also get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other fine retailers. Just look up a book retailer that you know. They probably have the book.
Just go out in your neighborhood, ask for the book. If they say they don't understand, they're lying to you, and attack them immediately. Don't do that. Just available at all good retailers.
Yes. We disavow all violence. But anyway, Charlie, anything else you want to plug, promote, tell people to go check out?
I'm pretty much all good. I've mentioned all my friends from the US. I've mentioned I've been in a very lucky position where I've had a lot of readers in the US, and then I post it on Facebook and everyone in the UK reads it. So I've had a lot of intersectional readers, which has been great. So there's nothing really I want to add other than it's great to be on. It's great to talk to you, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. I'll have a link to your Twitter and all that stuff in the podcast description. And of course, people can go check my website out at mattforney.com. It's going to get a facelift one of these days where I just delete everything on it, and there will be nothing on there but poems and the link to my CV or something. But it's there. If all this other stuff gets shut down, I'll be there. And yeah, go check out all the other links. And that'll do it for this episode of Terror House Radio. Be sure to check in every day at Terror House Magazine, terrorhousemag.com, for our latest short stories and whatnot. Our books are at Terror House Press, terrorhousepress.com. Social media links are in the description, and you can always check out past episodes of Terror House Radio at terrorhouseradio.com. Terror House Radio is produced by Bryden Proctor and presented by Jugs. Intro music by Meme Extremist. It'll jam my on-cover undum. Don't let the bastards grind you down. I'm Matt Forney with Charlie Chitty, and we are out.